Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make an infinity scarf. Basically an infinity scarf is just a scarf that is made in the round. Basically it's just joined. Now you can do it a couple different ways. You can just make a regular scarf, a big rectangle, and then sew the ends together, or you can do what I do and what I show in this video, and I actually just work in the round to begin with, so that way I don't have to sew a seam at the end. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get into it. To make this infinity scarf, you're going to need the following. You are going to need a tapestry needle to weave in your ends, a pair of scissors. You might need a stitch marker if you have a hard time knowing where you begin or end your rows, and then a size L or an 8mm crochet hook, and then you're going to need the yarn. I'm using 2 skeins of Bernat Softee Chunky in the True Gray colorway. Now this is listed as a super bulky, as you can see, but I would consider this more, I would say this is more on the bulky side, not the super bulky side, but that may just be the colorway, not the entire line of the yarn. But there you go. The first thing that you're going to need to do is make a slip knot, and so you just wrap the yarn over like that, put your crochet hook there, grab this yarn, pull through, and then just pull it tight, and you kind of make it go to where it's the same circumference as your hook. Okay, now you're going to need to make chain stitches. As for how many chain stitches you're going to need to make, well, that's really going to depend on how long you want your infinity scarf to be. I personally like it when I can wrap it around my neck twice with just a little bit of give. Some people prefer to be able to wrap it around 3 times. So you can just decide which way you like. The only thing that you need to remember is that if you change the number of chains from what I'm doing, it needs to be a multiple of 7, and then you're going to add 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and start making our chains. And I'll go ahead and finish up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have went ahead and done all of my chains. I don't think I mentioned it, but you need to do a total of 118 chain stitches. Almost forgot what they were called there for a second. Now this it ends up being about 50 inches long, and that works for me just to double it around twice. If you want to, well, twice with quite a bit of slack, but if you want it to be longer, of course, just chain more. Again, we're keeping the pattern repeat in mind. Now, once you have all of your chains done, you are going to need to join in the round. And you need to make sure you do that without twisting your chain. So usually what I do is just kind of run the chain back through my hands, making sure I keep the V side, not the side with just the one side on it, but the V side up. Okay. And then when I get to the end, I just sort of turn it. And then I'm going to work right into the top, right there. Right there. Okay. So there you go. And then you're just going to do a slip stitch. Okay. Now double check that it is not twisted. It shouldn't be. So basically what you do is I sort of hold on to the ends here and just pull out that way. And you should see that there's no twist in it. So there you go. All right, now you noticed that I did, you know, a pattern repeat of 7 plus 6 as opposed to having a full pattern repeat for that last section. And there is a reason for it, and I will show you why I do it this way. But basically you're going to chain 2, and then you are going to double crochet into the same stitch that you did the chain stitch or the slip stitch in. So for this pattern, we are pretty much going to disregard the chains here. Like, so when you step up to the next row, or round as it would be, this is here, but you're going to basically just act like it's not here. So when you come back around to the end, you are going to actually do your slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet stitch that you did. So that's where, if you have a hard time seeing where your stitches are or reading your work, you may want to use a stitch marker, but really it's fine. Okay, and so you did 1 double crochet, and then you're going to do 2 more. So 1 into the next 2 stitches. Okay. Then you're going to chain 2. And then you're going to skip the next 2 chains, so this one, and you're going to work a double crochet into that third one there. Okay, and then you're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 4 stitches. There's a hair in my yarn. Okay, and so that should give you 5 double crochets, but after this little space here. And then you're going to chain 2. Again, you're going to skip the next 2 stitches. Seriously, there's another hair in there. Okay, so you're going to chain 2, and then you skip the next 2 stitches again and work into that third stitch, a double crochet. And I keep saying stitch, but it should be chain on this row. Okay. And then you're going to do 4 double crochets again. 1 in each stitch. Or 1 in each of the next chains, rather. Okay. Okay, again, so there's 5, chain 2, and then basically this is where you're just going to continue to do the same thing all the way around. So you'll do the 5 double crochet, chain 2, skip 2, and start all over again. So I'm going to go ahead and work my way around, and I will come back and show you what the last little bit work looks like, because you will not complete that. I'll just show you when you get to it, but basically when you get to the end, you're not going to be able to do a full repeat, I guess. So I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see I have done almost the entire round, and I've reached the point where I've done the last 5 double crochets, and then I'm going to chain 2, and then again you're going to skip 2 and work into the next chain space, or chain. Okay. And now what you're going to do is, if you've used the stitch marker, to go ahead and pull that out, but you're going to do a slip stitch into the top of that, the first double crochet that you did. Okay, I'm going to pull it up so I can show you. Okay, so if you see, this is a section that doesn't have a chain height in it, and you can see that it's about that width, and then this, which is kind of hard to see, but it's about the same width too, and but we are not counting this chain up as a stitch, so that's the reason that you worked into the top of the first double crochet. And the reason that I do that, you don't have to do it, but the reason I do it is because I think it makes the seam a little less noticeable. That's just a personal preference. If you would prefer, you can count this is the first one and you would have not done that double crochet there. But basically there are still 5 bars, and that's what's important. And as for this being a little loose, you can tighten it up when you weave in the ends, and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so let's move on to the next round. Okay, for the next row and for all subsequent rows, you're going to do basically the exact same thing that I'm showing you. So you basically just repeat this row until you're done. You are going to chain 2, again not counting it, so you will do a double crochet into the same space you did the slip knot or the slip stitch. Okay, and then again, if you need to mark that, you will be marking it right there. So this is the chain, this is the stitch that you will be working into. I don't need to do that, so I'm not going to. Yeah. Now, I usually actually go through a step-by-step of how to do this specific stitch, and I didn't do that this time, so let me do that real quick. To do a double crochet, you just yarn over, insert your hook into the next space that you're working in, yarn over, and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the final 2. So again, you yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so there you go. That's what that looks like. So I'm going to basically just continue to do what I've been doing. So, you know, again, I'll chain 2, skip the next thing, the next 2 spaces, and then you're basically just going to work into the top of that first double crochet there. So again, you can see I skipped that and that to work into that. And so you can see it makes these vertical spaces. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and continue to work. I will show you. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish the scarf. I will come back when I'm basically closer to being finished completely. So I thought that I would show you this one time because I was looking at it and I was like, ooh, they might get confused if they're doing this, and you know, maybe they've never done this before. I just wanted to show you again where you need to go. So you skip, I've done the 2 chains, and you're going to skip that stitch, skip that stitch, well, the chains, and then you're going to work into that 3rd one, and it's at the top of the last double crochet you did in the round. So you just go ahead and do that. Okay. And then you're going to slip stitch into the top of the first one you did in the round, skipping this little section here. So, or skipping, well, you're going to work into the top of the first one you did, which is right here. And see, there's the turning chain. So there's 1 and 2 there. So So you just slip stitch into that. Okay, there you go. So this is the one where you start and stop in the round, and this is one that's just sort of overlapping, and there you have those spaces. Okay, and I find because I prefer to have that the chain and not count it. I prefer to have that for the spacing, but in order to do that, then you have to figure out if it's going to look okay. For instance, where I did 5 double crochet, if I had done 5 double crochet here and just had this in there extra, there would have been 6 vertical bars basically, and I think it would have looked a little off, but at the same time I wanted it to be a little closer, so that's the reason that I skip in, or I slip stitch into the top of this double crochet as opposed to in the top of the turning chain. So it's just the way that I happen to do it, and I just didn't want you guys to get confused or anything. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and just continue working, and unless for some reason I have something that comes up I want to tell you guys, I will see you guys when I'm done. Alright, so basically this is as far as I've got. I have, what is that, 8? It'll be 8 total rows. I'm going to go ahead and just do the last couple of stitches. Okay. And there you go. And it is complete. In case you were wondering, if you wanted to do this with one skein, or at least I got six rows. So you can actually see. Well, I was these 2 chains in that 1 stitch short of 6 rows. I could have stretched it out because you can see like I left kind of a big long tail, but yeah, there you go. That's only if you want it to be a little shorter or a little narrower. Yeah. Now that of course is with the same, if you have the same gauge as I do, and also, you made yours exactly the same length as I did. You may have changed that. Anyway, so yeah, there you go. So, okay, so you just go ahead and cut your yarn. I'll show you. I actually had quite a bit of yarn left in the second skein. You can see right there. I have enough for a hat easily. I didn't weigh it, but that's plenty for a hat. So you can make a matching hat too. All right. And now we're going to go ahead and weave in the ends, and I'll just show you how to do that real quick. All right, so here, this is the starting end. I'm sure you guys, if you don't know how to do this, I'll show you, but if you do, I understand. If you want to pass this one up, you can fast forward, I guess. So when you're weaving in ends, I just try to hide it the best I can, and I follow the stitches when at all possible, especially in something like this, where the stitch pattern is fairly easy. Now you're going to want to look on the front just to make sure you're going the right direction. So if I put it that way, it's going to pull that way. If I pull it this way, it's going to pull that way. I actually am going to go this way with it. So just hold it however you're comfortable with. And then what I'll usually do is just sort of slip it in there. And then just start working your way through the stitches. I just try to follow a row. Now what you can do if you want is you can just work it through basically the lines. See, like, you basically go under these stitches, which is what I will eventually get down to do, but usually I'll just kind of follow the stitches until I get down to that point, and then just continue to do so. Just making sure you go under both parts of the stitch. And then just continue to do that until you've got got it to a point that you, where all of the end is woven in, or if you have like a really long end, then when you've got about like 5 or 6 inches woven in. And I'll give you a little trick. If you get to the point where, like, for instance, I can get it through this one, but if you start running out to where like you can't get the stitch through, you know, like the needle's too long, if you just go ahead and you just weave in the ends like you were going to, and then you just thread the needle again, and you just pull it through. That's usually what I do at the very, very end when I have a short end. So, all right, and just do the same thing for all of the other ends you may happen to have. Okay, so just go ahead and weave in the ends for, or how many ever ends you happen to have, and then you'll have a finished infinity scarf. I will give you one hint. Before you cut off the end, which you can do that, but you may want to stretch it out just to make sure you haven't kind of gathered the fabric a little bit. And then you can go ahead and snip the end off now, or you can wait until you've washed it and then snip off the ends. It'll depend on how you prefer to do it, and also the type of yarn you're using. I'll just go ahead and snip it because this had a plenty long enough end, so I figured if it gets too short, then I'll just snip off any end that happens to show up after I've washed it. And there you have it. This is your infinity scarf. It's completed and it's done. And yeah, you can make it wider if you want. Again, I had a lot of leftover yarn, but I think that this width, it just works because you are doubling it over, and it is a bulky yarn, so I don't want to feel like I'm smothering. But if you prefer it to be wider, go ahead, or maybe you have a longer neck than I do or something like that. So anyway, here you go, and I hope you guys let me know what you think in the comments, and if you make it, definitely let me know. Check me out on Facebook. I'm Crafting with Claudie over there. Oh, Instagram. Get on Instagram. If you tag me just like at Crafting with Claudie, I'll see it and I can go over and look. So yeah, show me what you made.